Let me first start with how SECI evolved. SECI became a intermediate procurer and a demand aggregator in 2015. It was made by Government of India. Now, after that, SECI started bringing out large tenders, both in solar and wind. And some of these tenders were very successful. The tariffs were driven down quite a bit, and we had a situation where the distribution companies stopped doing their own tenders and they depended exclusively on SECI to do the tendering for themselves. This also helped the investors to see a very clear picture of the renewable energy scenario in the country, and also gave a lot of comfort to the international investors because the contracting was done at the central government level rather than at the provincial levels. Then SECI realized, in consultation with both the DISCOMs, that their requirement is not fully matching with the plain vanilla tender SECI was so far conducting. So, in consultation with the DISCOMs, we came out with a few variations. First, we started with this solar wind hybrid with a minimum of 20% of the user power. Then we came up with the peak power tender, that means RE, with a compulsion or a condition to supply part of the energy during the peak hour, that is when the DISCOMs demand the maximum. Then we came up also with one round-the-clock supply of RE power with a PLF of minimum 85%. Apart from that, SECI has also done an innovation, of course, with the prodding from the ministry and the scheme given by the ministry to bring out manufacturing linked solar tender. This is one of the biggest tenders SECI has ever undertaken. Let us see what SECI is currently doing and what SECI is going to do in the future. See, solar energy doesn't end with supply of electricity per se. Solar energy is a kind of energy which can be converted to fuel a lot of applications. Especially, we are seeing a lot of interesting possibilities in hydrogen, and we are talking to various players whether we can bring tenders in near future. Primarily on two aspects. One is enriching the CNG that is being supplied to the power industry, the domestic consumers, as well as the fertilizer. The second is to replace the ammonia that is being used in our large fertilizer industry with green ammonia. These two applications we are currently seeing with a lot of interest. We are also seeing, of course, technologies are evolving in Europe, whether steel industry, especially the very, very dirty direct reduction of steel production process, whether hydrogen can be used to replace coal. This is also we are seeing a lot of interest. Apart from this, as you already will be knowing that we have already come up with a 5,000 megawatt. The quantity may vary. We are coming up with a solar round-the-clock tender, which will be combined with any other non-renewable source of energy, whether it is thermal, coal, whether it is gas, whether it is even a pure RE with storages. So this is what we have already come out, and we will be coming out with many more tenders in future where it will be technology agnostic, but there will be a minimum percentage of RE. The current tender, we have said that it is 51% renewable energy. It may go up in the future as the technology is mature and as the prices of the solar energy comes down. RE, we are in this country, we have both solar and wind. However, we see immense possibilities for solar. People keep saying that land is a major constraint, but we don't see, because we are a country of 328 million hectares. And even 400, 500 gigawatts of solar will require only 0.6 to 0.7 million hectares. So land requirement actually is not such an important issue as creating ecosystem for setting up solar plants in the country. We have also started a fairly innovative schemes. We are talking to Government of Odisha and Government of Tamil Nadu to set up agro-PV, where the cultivation and the solar will go side by side. So the perceived conflict between agriculture and solar, we want to show that this is actually there is no conflict and they can run side by side. Solar will give very cheap source of energy to agriculture, thereby improving the productivity rather than being seen as an impediment to agriculture and an obstacle to agriculture. Regarding EV charging also, we are seeing immense possibilities. Currently, the charging is fed by grid, and grid is primarily fueled by thermal technology. So when we are actually seeing, conceptually, when we are actually seeing the electric EV charging, we try to reduce carbon emission, but then because of the inefficiency that is put in, because we are charging the battery and then running the vehicle, actually the carbon emission at the plant, at coal plant side, is increasing. So you are looking at possibilities where the charging stations can be charged by batteries, big batteries, which are charged by solar plants, maybe situated about 40 to 50 kilometers away. This is what possibilities we are seeing. We are talking to various players. We will try to implement them as things become more lucrative or commercially viable.